All right. We're going to do a new topic. It's functions. So we have actually two more topics, functions and arrays, and that'll be all.
Do we have another project after this?
We have, yes, projects from chapter 5 and 6, yes. Okay, so let's understand what is a function first. It's a collection of C++ statements written to achieve a subtask needed to be completed along the way of achieving the larger task. So the program is designed to achieve a larger task. To aid that, you can create these little programs that will do the secondary work on the side. That's what they are. So in fact, you can break down the entire programming task into little programs, but we usually divide only the subtasks that can be identified as a separate task themselves as functions. So basically, you are writing little programs that will be used by the main program. So these little programs are called functions, and they will be designed in such a way that the main program can go there and get everything done there and then come back to where it left off. So the main program will call the function whenever it needs help, and then it will come back to the same point when it's done. That's how it works. We're going to focus on how to write these functions. They are programs by themselves. They have a header and they have a finish line. Everything is like a program, but they're designed to work for the main program, not by themselves. So they cannot run themselves. One second. So these functions cannot run by themselves. They are written to work for main programs. So in fact, functions can be called by not just your main program, by others' main programs too, if you provide that to the others. So that's one of the goals, one of the reasons why we like functions. Because if you write them, then we can make them useful for other programmers as well. In fact, there are libraries of many functions that we can use in our main programs, and we'll get to that in this same chapter. We'll be learning about existing functions we can use and all those. So first we had to learn to write our own functions. So remember, they are just little programs written to achieve subtasks. So to achieve the subtasks, they have to often receive things from the main program. So we'll see how to receive things and work with them and all those. So the programmer basically has to isolate subtasks and write separate functions for them. And it is considered to be a good practice to write functions separately and then put all those together to build the entire program. So if you think about the professional programmer's world, nobody can write that entire program normally written like a word processor. Think about that. It's too big for anyone to write. So it's broken down into pieces. One second. So these pieces are given to each programmer. They work as a team. And then they all write them as functions whenever possible. And then they provide the functions. The person who writes the main program doesn't even have to know how these functions work. He will be just using these functions to achieve the entire task. So it is beneficial in many ways to break down a program into parts and have them written separately. So let's see, I already explained how they work. So let's see how to write the function, how to define a function. you will write a header for the function, and then brackets to separate all the statements you have to write inside the function. So the header would include a name for the function, and the main program will be calling the function by name. So you need a name for the function. Okay, so here's a simple example. I want to write a function that will write the text, which is this, a title basically, the Wonderland, and then underline it with asterisk. This is what I want to do. But I want to write a function that'll do it. Okay, then you write text is the name. And notice that the parentheses behind it, if the parentheses are missing, this will be considered a variable. It's those two empty parentheses there that make this function header. This is identified as a function header because of the parentheses. So you need that. Sometimes we need to write things inside the parentheses. Sometimes it's empty. We'll learn all that as we proceed. So whatever this function does is this, like say everything the function needs to do will have to be written inside the function. And see out this text, I have a \t first, so that means tab over and write this, and then go to new line because of the NDL, and then on the next line tab over so that the underline will match up with the text, and then have the underlining all in the double quotes. Okay, so that's example of a function. It's very simple. You have to write a title and then write everything you need to write. And then in the main program, if I want to call this function, I write just one line in the main program that will make a call. So here, I'll just write that on the board. In the main, somewhere, whenever you need to do this, you would write, just write text, the name, write text with the empty parentheses, semicolon, just that. And when that is executed, you'll deviate to the function and do everything there. After doing everything there, when it hits that bracket at the end, the bracket at the end of the function, when it hits that, it'll come back to the same place and proceed to the next line. So this write text, when this is executed, when this is executed in the main, it'll end up going into the function and writing the text, the title, and then it'll come back and proceed from there. That's how they communicate. So in the main program, just write text is a statement. That'll make it go there. Okay, so that's a simple example. Now we'll learn some details. We have to learn some details about functions before we write some serious functions. So the return type of a function. Return type means the data type of the value function will return. Now this function write text that we just wrote doesn't return anything to the main. Most of the time, the function has to find an answer and return that answer to the main program. So if it is returning something, then there's a return type, a data type of the value that the function will be returning. So you need to identify what type of value the function will be returning, and then you need to indicate that as part of the title. So in front of the return type, in front of the name of the function in the title, you need to write the return type. So if the function is going to return a float type value, then you need to say float and this, here's the name. So for example, suppose that my function is called find max. It's going to find maximum of numbers received. So the function is going to be called find max, and it's going to return a float type number, which is the maximum of the numbers received. So the return type is float. In that case, I need to say, in the header of the function, I need to say float. I'm writing on the board, float find max. So the return type is needed in the front. Uh, it is required. Sometimes there is nothing to return. The function doesn't return anything. Then there is no return type if it is not returning anything. And in that case, we identify the return type as void, VOID. So this write text, when I'm writing the function write text, here's the header of the write text. And I need to say void. I didn't say that before because I didn't explain that before. So if the function is not returning anything, you need to say void. Otherwise, whatever the type of value it returns should be part of the header. Right. Examples of functions. So if find max is a function that will return a float type value, then float find max is the header. And write text is void type because it doesn't return anything. Now, parameters of a function. Now, like I said earlier, some functions need to receive things from the main so that they can carry out the task. And for example, function find max, if I'm writing the function find max to find larger one of two numbers, then this function has to receive two numbers and return the larger one of those. I'm using a simple example. Normally you don't write find function to find larger of two numbers, but I'm using simple example to illustrate idea of function. So function find max is going to receive two numbers from the main program and then find the larger one of those and it will return the larger one. So if it is doing that, then it needs to receive two numbers. To receive numbers or anything from main, you write variables inside the parentheses in the header. For example, function find max here is going to receive two float type numbers. That's why I have these two in parentheses, float num1, float num2. So whatever the values main program will pass will be received in these names. We'll see later how the main program can pass those numbers. So these numbers will be received in num1 and num2. So the function find max can return the larger one of those. Okay, so let's see on the board, it's written on the next page, but it might be a good idea to see how to write the function. So I'm writing function find max. It's going to be float type because it will be returning a float type number, which is the maximum of two numbers. And the name of the function is find max. And parameters would be two, because this function is going to receive two numbers. So float type num1, I'll receive two numbers which are float type. So float come num2. You have to individually declare them. You cannot declare them both. Sorry, my pen is not properly working. But the first one is num1, second one is num2. And then inside, how do we write that? Num1 and num2 now have the values. So what we need to do inside the function is determine which is larger one. So we can just use an if statement. If num1 is bigger than num2, then num1 is our answer, right? So max, we can introduce a variable local like this, float max, and then if num1 greater than num2, max equal to num1. Else, if it is the other way around, then max equal to num2. Since there are only two numbers, we don't need any other technique. Just a comparison will do. Okay, so you do the work of finding the maximum within the function, and now you have to return the answer. So we're going to see how to do that. But you understand the parameters now. The parameters are the values we need to work with within the function.
Professor,
Do you need the void?
I'm sorry. This function is not void. It's going to return the larger one of the two numbers. So the return type is float.
So you have to declare the max as a float inside, right?
Outside, see, I have already written that in the header. See, find max.
And you did it inside too as well, right? Float
Inside I,
max.
no, inside I declared another variable. That's a variable called max. That's not find max.
Oh, okay, okay. So two different variables.
Two
Okay,
different things.
find max and max. Okay.
Find max is the name of the function.
Yes.
Max is a variable within the function.
Okay.
So the variable you declare within the function is only recognized within the function. It's not going to be recognized in the main or in other functions. So I declared max so that I can store the maximum of the two numbers.
So that float find max won't turn everything inside a float. You have to
No,
no, right? Okay.
yes, everything individually has to be declared. So the variable max has to be declared. And remember, max and find max are two different names, okay? Find max and max are two different names. Find max is name for the function, max is a name for another variable. Okay, so inside the function, we stored the larger one of the two numbers in max. Now we have to send that number to the main as the answer, and we'll see how to do that in a minute. So right now we are understanding parameters. So whenever the function needs to receive anything from the main program, it will have parameters to receive them. If you need to receive three things, then you have to have three parameters. Each parameter must be declared, and they can only be declared individually. You cannot declare both of them with the same keyword, one keyword. All right.
Do you need the brackets after find max?
After the, yes, the find max function will begin with the bracket.
And then float max is after the bracket, right?
Hold on. Okay. Yeah, inside you, the function begins with the bracket, right? And it'll end with the opposite bracket, just like the main. Just like main program begins with the bracket and ends with the opposite bracket, same way. I still have to write one statement inside the function to return the answer to the main. And we will see all that in a few minutes. So we understood parameters. Now so the general form of a function will be this. The header, which is the first line of the function, will have return type and then name of the function. And then inside you have a type specifier like float, int for each parameter. And you declare each parameter, separate them by comma. You can have many of them, but all of them had to be separated by comma. Each one must be declared. And then declaration of the variables that are local to the function. Local variables means they are used within the function only. They're not going to be recognized anywhere else. And all other C++ statements to achieve the task of the function will go inside the brackets. Okay, now the function.
Is it possible if I could share my screen, because I'm trying to run it and it's not going, it says function definition is not allowed here.
You're trying to run it where?
On Xcode.
Okay, you're trying to run this program?
Yes.
I just said it's not complete yet, so don't rush, okay?
Oh,
Just wait with me, and you can run it after we complete, after we learn all about it.
okay.
So find max, we'll complete the find max after we learn everything about it. All right, moving on. So this is a general form a function will be written. So here is example, find max. The function will return a value to the main by using a return statement. So whatever the value you need to return, you can say return this. So when you go back to the function, that value will be received by the function, and we'll see how the value will be received. So here's the complete function, find max. float, find max, float num1, num2, and then max num is a local variable. And then I say if num1 greater than num2, max num equal to num1, else max num equal to num2, and then return max num. So max num has the answer, so return that. So whatever the value stored in max num will be now passed back to the main. And how exactly the max function receives it and uses it, we'll see that. We'll have to wait to the next section to see section 5.2. We're going to focus on writing functions in this section. All right, some more examples. Function square is designed to receive one number and return the square of it. Again, it's a simple idea, so we don't normally need a function for that, but I'm writing a function just to show you that you can write function for almost anything. So this function square will receive num, which is integer, so I declare that int num as parameter. So whatever goes in the parentheses are called parameters, and they are designed to receive values from the main. This is where value will be received, and there's no other way. So num is the only variable that's going to receive a value from the main. So that's the only value you have. And you don't need to declare that num inside the function. You know, some students get confused and they add this num as a declaration here, num, in the declaration within the main. No, you don't do that. It's already declared as a parameter, and that's all you need. So you only declare whatever you need to use locally. So I'm using a variable, local variable answer, which is really I don't need, but I'm just showing you that you can do it this way if you like. And then answer equal to num times num, the square. That's what we need to find, and return answer. So num squared is going to be returned now. Okay, so oops, num squared will be returned now. So so I said, you know, local variable I'm using answer. I don't really have to use a local variable. I can actually write the operation in the return statement itself like this: return num times num. As simple as that. That is valid. So you can just do the if it is simple operation like multiplying, which I'm doing here, then you can do it in the return statement itself. And in the function, you can have a return statement, or you can have return statement more than once, as long as only one of them is executed, you're fine. You can have many return statements, depending on the task. As we proceed, you will be seeing more examples with all those different things. Function write text that I wrote before, I'm writing again, void write text, and see out all this. This is the job this function does, and there's nothing to return. This function will put this text on the screen. That's all it does. So there's no return statement necessary here. And in fact, if the function is a void type, there will be no return statement. Okay, so more examples. Here's a function average that will receive 3 numbers, and it will return the average. I've written it for integers, but generally you would write it for float numbers to receive float numbers and then return average of them. So float average, and 3 numbers are received in these parameters, and I'm adding those 3 numbers, dividing by 3. I have 3 dot because otherwise this will be integer. Integer divided by integer will be integer part of the answer, which is going to be wrong. So I have 3 point so that the floating point number will be returned. So that's a simple example of a function. All right, so here's a couple of exercises for you to do. First one says, write a function called digit that receives an integer and returns the last digit. Okay, first let me ask you a question. how many of you remember how to extract last digit of an integer? Anybody can answer that? How do we do it?
Do modulus 10.
Modulus 10, exactly. If you take modulus 10, you will get the last digit of the number. So now everybody knows the technique. You just need to use modulus 10. Let me see if you can write the function. It's just going to be 3 or 4 lines, not big deal. And write it in the chat, please. The function will extract the last digit and return it. And the name of the function will be digit. All of you should try it. It's very simple program. It's going to be 3 or 4 lines, not much. Okay, I see some chats. Let's begin. Okay, Jonathan got it right. Alexander got it right. Terence got it right. Sam got it right. Excellent. Anissa got it right. Excellent. Okay, that's 5. All right. Great. Nice to see so many of you. 5 people try it. You know, usually I get like 3. Let me see. Is there anyone else? Okay, one more. In class 2 modulus 10. That's right. Okay, Christopher got it right too. Okay, for the others, let me write that function on the board. This function is going to receive an integer and it's going to return the last digit, which is also integer. So therefore, int digit is the name. If the problem suggests a name, you must use that name. Digit is the name and it's going to receive int type value. I can make up a name for the parameter. I'll call it num. That's something I make up, the person who writes the function. Okay, inside the function, some of you used local variables, you can do that. But the answer is very simple. Num modulus 10 is our answer, right? So I can just say return num modulus 10, semicolon. And that's it. Any question on that? But if you use local variable to store the answer and then return that, that'll be correct too. There are different ways to write it, and this is the simplest way. So now let me see if you can write the second one. Function called surface. that'll receive radius and height of a cylinder, and it'll return the surface area of the cylinder, which is given by 2 pi r times h plus r. Now, pi can be a local variable or local constant, which is equal to 3.1412. So you can use that within the function, declared as a constant or as a variable. It doesn't matter. Within function, you can do it as a variable. Okay, so let me see how many of you can write that function. I see Ivan has written answer for the first one. I didn't see that in time. That is correct, Ivan. It's the right answer. Oh, except that you wrote num1 inside. The parameter is num, and your variable name num1 is wrong. You should use num modulus 10. I'm waiting for somebody to write this function. Okay, I see one. Okay, I see Alexander's solution. It's incomplete because the pi doesn't have any value. So you have to declare a local variable called pi and assign that value before the calculation of the surface area. So within the function, at the top of the function, you need to declare the variable pi, or as a constant, or doesn't matter, as a constant or as a variable, you need to declare it and assign the value. I don't see any other solution. So Alexander, if you have a better one, send it to. Okay. All right, yeah, Alexander has a second version. Okay, now it's right. You're missing semicolons, but other than that, it's right. Okay, and it's float pi equal to that, return. Right, Anissa has it right. Looking at Sam's solution, const float volume equal to radius. Right, Sam has it right, very good. No, Jonathan, you cannot write a function with one statement like that. You need header, parameters, and then a body. What you have written is not a function. That's for Jonathan. What you have written is not a function, and this is wrong. You need to write function header with the parameter to receive value and all those. Only 3 students wrote that. I'm waiting to see if anyone else can write it. Why is it always about only same 3 to 5 students active? Everybody else is completely quiet. Okay, I see Christopher's solution. No, yeah, Christopher, I see a mistake in the header itself. You don't have a return type for the header. That's one problem. And then inside the parentheses, you have 3 variables. No, you only need 2. You're receiving only radius and height. You don't put any other variable in the parameter. Only parameters are for receiving values. So in the parentheses, you only need radius and height, and both of them need to be declared. The third variable should be eliminated. Okay, so see if you can correct that. Okay, now I'm looking at Damien's solution, surface, float radius, height. Okay, Damien, the pi equal to 3.1416, that should go inside the function. It shouldn't be in the list of parameters. What goes in the parentheses can only be the parameters to receive values, not for any other purpose. So the pi has to be moved inside the function. Only the radius and height should be in the parentheses. And your height is not declared. Both radius and height should be separately declared within the parameters. So correct those mistakes. Okay, I'm looking at Terrence. No, Terrence, your function is wrong. You have a parentheses. You're writing too many things in the parentheses. Now, parentheses would be only for parameters. Parameters are the variables in which you receive values. So in parentheses, you can only have 2 parameters in this case. You're going to receive only 2 values. So yours is wrong. Terrence, see if you can rewrite that. Okay, I'm looking at Ivan's float RH 2 pi r squared plus. Okay, Ivan's answer is right. I'm looking at Christopher. Pi and then v equal to this and return v. Okay, now you're right. Christopher is right. Now you have a right solution. Damien has another one. Let's see, pi and then return. Right, now you have it right. Damien's answer is now correct. Very good. Okay, so all right, very good. I have a few more people participating in this last one. I'm going to write, there are still, there are what, 20 some students in the class, only about 5 students are making any attempt. So let me write this function. This is called this surface, and the return type is float. It's going to return float type number, float surface. In parentheses, only 2 variables I need, because I only need to receive 2 values, the radius and height. So float type R for radius, comma, float type, you have to declare them individually separately. Height, H for height. These H and R are variable names I create. They will receive the values passed on to them. And inside, I need a local variable or constant actually, float, const float. The const has to go first. Float pi equal to 3.1412. That's all the only local variable I need. After that, I'm ready to calculate the answer, which is 2 times pi times r times parentheses h plus r. That's our answer. So return that. You can calculate answer in the return statement. Semicolon. If you store this answer in a variable and then return that, that will be also correct. They're all just different ways of writing the same thing. Okay, so that's our function. All right, moving on. Here is the function lower alpha. This function will receive an alphabet, an uppercase alphabet. Now here it is assumed that we will only receive uppercase alphabet. Oh no, sorry. We'll receive an alphabet and we'll determine whether it's a lowercase alphabet or not. That's what this function will do. And if it is lowercase alphabet, it will return int. If it is not lowercase alphabet, it will return 0. So if it is not lowercase alphabet, it could be anything. It doesn't matter what it is, we'll return 0. So that's what this function is. And see the way I've written it. To determine whether, so I'm receiving only one character in the name val. And then if val is over 97 and under 122, only then it is lowercase alphabet. So return 1 in that case, else return 0. As you can see, I have written 2 return statements. Only one of them will be executed. So you can write multiple return statements as long as only one of them will be executed. Normally, if you follow the logic right, then you would be able to write that correctly. So that's okay. So let me explain something. The val greater than that statement in if val greater than 97. If you don't know, you don't really have to use the equivalent integer 97. You can actually use the character itself if you like. Val greater than or equal to lowercase a in quotes. That's same as 97. And val less than or equal to 122. Instead of 122, you can say lowercase z. That's same as 127, 122 that is, and close. That'll be correct. Now, if you're checking for lowercase, then this is what it is. If it is uppercase, you can use the uppercase letters there if you're checking for uppercase. So I just wanted to make that comment there. All right, going on to the return statement. So let me explain why in the main program, you sometimes see this return 0. I have seen some of you writing that in your program because you have seen others writing it. Let me explain why. The main is also a function. That's why the main has this empty parentheses behind it. And so the main function doesn't return anything to any other function, even though main is a function. So it was in the original version of the C language, it was required that you write return 0 because every function has to return something. So this function has to return 0 because there's nothing really to return in the main, but to make it a function like any other, you need to write that statement, return 0. That's why it is in some programs. But now in the new versions of the C++, it's not required anymore. So return 0 at the end of the program is not required, but so some of you have been writing, so why write it when it's not required? But the reason is clear. Because main is a function like any other function, it has to have a return statement. That's why they do that. Okay, so let's see. What's next? Another warm-up exercise. Write a function called toUpr that receives an alphabet unknown as to whether it's lowercase or uppercase. So I will receive a letter, but we don't know whether it's uppercase or lowercase. So what that means is if it is already lowercase, we will return it as is. If it is uppercase, we'll convert it and return it. You can assume that you only receive alphabet. You can, if you receive some other character, then we don't know what to do with that, right? So you can assume that you will only receive alphabet, but whether it's lowercase or uppercase is unknown. All right, so how do you convert? Let me explain that. So let's get a new screen here. Okay, to convert, notice that lowercase alphabets are 97 to 122. Uppercases are 65 to 90. Notice that the difference is 23. Yeah, 22. So,
Isn't it 32, Professor?
oh, I'm sorry, 32, you're right, 32. So if I add, if it is a uppercase letter, then if I add 32, it'll be lowercase. Notice that 65 added to 30, if you add 32, it'll be 97. 66 plus 32 is 98. So each one, all of them are different. All of them are, the difference between all of them are 32. Each uppercase letter and the corresponding lowercase letter have a difference of 32. So whatever the alphabet is, so let's say the variable is char s. S is the variable, it has an alphabet. Then if I write s, if it is already uppercase, then if I add 32, it'll be lowercase. But I have to make sure to convert because s is already character, 32 is integer. So during this addition, it'll convert both of them to integer. So the result of this will be the number 97. So I need to, if I want to make sure to print it as a character, I had to convert it by putting char in parentheses in front of it and then see out it. Now I'm printing alphabet, which is if S has a 65, now I'm printing lowercase alphabet a, lowercase a. So whatever S is, I'm printing lowercase version of it by doing this. I just wanted to show you that so that you can finish this function. So I'm waiting for you to write the function now. I just gave you the idea of how to convert it. Now you convert only if it is already lowercase. If it is already uppercase, then you return it as is. If it is lowercase, you convert and return. So you have to do all that within the function. And you're receiving only one character value from the main. All right, I'm waiting to see if you can write that. Okay, I see one from Alexander. Let okay, very good. Alexander got it right. Others, without looking at Alexander's solution, you had to write your own version. Looking at Anisa's solution, no, you cannot put a return where an if statement is supposed to go. No, that's not right. I think you're right, just trying to write return. You're trying to write an if statement and then you combine the return with it. You can't do that. All right, so rewrite that. All right, I see one from Sam, 2-Apr. You know what, Sam, Sam, you're trying to, you're combining the return statement and an assignment statement. That's going to be tough. There will be something returned, but it may be some unexpected value. No, don't combine like that.
Are you saying, is that the return letter minus equals 32?
Yeah, that's an assignment statement and a return in front of it, which is not recommended that you write something like that, okay? So I think I can put on the board exactly what you meant to write there, what you should be writing there. Instead of assignment, you can say return letter minus 32. Is that what you want to do? That's what you want to do, right?
I honestly didn't even think of that, but yeah, I mean, that works, right?
Yeah, but only there's a minor change needed. When this subtraction is done, it's going to have a numeric answer because remember, this is char, this is int, so they both get converted to int before the subtraction, so it'll be an integer. So if you do it this way, it'll be correct. Return char letter minus 32. You understand what I mean now?
So does everyone need to have done this, right? The return char letter, because we would have subtracted 32 from letter anyway, right?
Yes. So the way.
So everyone needed. I'm just asking, like.
Yes. Yes. Of course.
Okay.
That's the right question to ask. For example, what Alexander did was he stored the answer without using return just like that. What he did was he said letter equal to letter minus 32. Now the conversion is done right there. Letter minus 32 will be a number corresponding to lowercase alphabet, but by assigning it to a letter, you're converting it back to character. Understand?
Oh, I see. Because it wasn't an.
Yes.
Because it's not an assignment statement in your example. That's why you define the character of.
That's why I had to do this.
Okay, okay. But if it's already assigned to the variable, which is already declared, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Letter is already declared as character here. So when you assign it back to letter, you are converting it. Okay, so only if you all write these, then we can have this kind of discussion and understand better. All right, now Anissa has another solution. If greater than that, and
That's
this.
wrong now.
Yeah,
see
you're
when
combining assignment and return statement. Actually, it's not entirely wrong, you know, but it will return something, but it is not recommended you write something like that. See, it's already confusing for a reader, right? You're assigning and then returning the assignment statement. Okay, so don't ever write that. What you return has to be clearly a value, not an assignment statement. Any other solution? No other one. Okay. Oh, there are some more. All right, I have one from Christopher. Okay, almost right, Christopher. You need to put parentheses around val plus 32. Only then it'll be correct. You need to add first and then convert it to character. So parentheses around val plus 32. I'm looking at Damien's solution. Val minus 32. Okay, you need to convert the val minus 32 to character. So you need to do what I did on the board, put char around the whole thing. But actually, it'll work in this case. So let me explain. I'm going to put on the board and explain some things. Oh, there are two more solutions. Let me take a look. Oops, sorry. There are two more solutions that I haven't looked at. One from Jonathan, val 65 and 90. You don't have anything in the if statement. Jonathan, you need ifs, but that's true, you need to have something to do. You're writing if else. The if part doesn't have anything. Cannot write an if statement that way. All right, I'm going to the board. I'm going to write this one. The alphabet received can be
Is it possible for me to put return 0
yes, but
after the if
no, see, you can write return 0, it'll be valid, but main program is not expecting a 0. The main program is expecting a lowercase alphabet, and that's what you need to provide.
statement?
Okay, so all of you failed to consider some aspects, and so I'm going to write my program considering everything. The function is called toUpper, and it's going to return char type. Char toUpper, and it'll receive a char type value in a variable. I'll make up the variable as val. Doesn't matter what name you make up for that, but there's only one parameter you need. And it's going to, I need to check to see if it is lowercase or uppercase alphabet. If it is already lowercase, convert it to uppercase. If it is already uppercase, we return it as is. So therefore, we know that it's a letter. If it can be something else, then we need to write additional things. One of your homework problems has that. It can be anything, but you need to determine what it is. In this case, we know it's alphabet. So therefore, I can say if it is lowercase, that means if val is greater than 97, greater than or equal to 97, and val less than or equal to 122, then it's a lowercase alphabet, and that's when we need to convert. So we can declare a local character variable char letter or any, whatever you want. The name can be anything. Then you can say letter equal to val minus 32. And then else, you can use return statement right there if you like, but I'll write it this way. I'm storing the answer in the variable letter. So else letter equal to, letter is same as val, because, so could I have used val instead of letter? I could have. That would be still correct. So then return letter. Okay, that's just one version. Now, if I want to just write return statement directly, then I can do that. To upper char val. Okay, so if I need to say val greater than or equal to 97 and val less than or equal to 122, if in that case, we need to do the conversion. So return val minus 32. Now, return val minus 32, that's what Sam was trying to write, but he wrote with the assignment, but you could write return val minus 32. And then I said you need to put char in front of it. It'll be safe to do that, but in this case, if I don't do that, it'll work. And let me explain why. If I just say return val minus 32, it'll work. Else, let me finish it and then I'll explain. Else return val itself. The val is already uppercase, then I return val itself. Otherwise, val minus 32, I return. Now, this is correct. Why? Because we already said the return type is char, right? So that means whatever I try to return, it will convert it to char if I don't make it char. So even if you don't put the char in front of it, it'll work, but it'll be safer, or it'll be clearer for a reader if you put the char in front of it. But it'll work if it is missing, because the char is the data type of the return. So it'll convert it to char. It is correct to write the program this way. All right, so let's go to the next thing. The bool.
So that's allowing the user to write in a number or a letter.
I'm sorry, what was that question again? One more time. Jonathan, what is that question again?
That program is allowing a user to use a number or a letter.
Yes, in place of 97 and 122, you could have written the alphabets in quotes.
Because
right?
you have two different functions.
Two different versions of the same function, both are right. Okay. Because the return type is char, if I just say return val minus 32, val minus 32 will be a number, 65, it's between 65 and 90, but since the return type is char, that number will be converted to character, which is what we want. And that's why it's right to write it this way. Okay, so is that your question, or?
I'm sorry, I was just a little confused because you're just writing examples.
I'm writing what? I'm not understanding your question to answer it.
think his connection is bad.
Yeah, that's why I'm having trouble. I think your sound connection is poor, and you're probably saying things I can't hear. All right, I'll have to move on, and I'll take your question at the end if your system works. Okay, the bool type data, if you remember, logical type values are true and false. The inequalities like x greater than y will produce a true or false as answer. And that true or false answer is called Boolean type value. So Boolean type values are true and false. And if you convert them to integer, they will become 1 and 0. So if the value true is converted to integer, it will be 1. Value false converted to integer will be 0. So, and also you learn that you can store these Boolean type values in variables that are declared as bool type. So if I want to store true or false values in a variable, then the variable has to be declared as bool. These were discussed a long time ago in chapter 3. I just wanted to recall it because we're going to understand how to write Boolean type values in functions. So here's a simple example of Boolean statements. Int x equal to 15, y equal to 3, and bool isdiff. Isdiff is declared as bool type, and then x modulus y equal to 0 is a condition. It is checking to see if x modulus y equal to 0. In this case, it is. 15 modulus 3 is 0. So therefore, 0 is going to be stored in isdiff, but isdiff is bool type. So you're converting the 0 to Boolean type. If you convert a number to Boolean type, then 0 is false. Anything else is true. Okay, that's what you need to remember. When you go from Boolean value to integer, true is 1, false is 0. But when you go backwards, 0 converts to false, non-zero converts to true. All right, that's how it converts if you go from integer to Boolean. All right, so here's a example we have. The function, write a function that receives 2 numbers and determines whether the second one divides the first one evenly or not. So we're checking divisibility. So if the number, we are receiving 2 numbers, and if the second number divides the first one evenly, then we want to return true. Otherwise, we want to return false. So we can write it this way. We can say x modulus y equal to 0. This is a comparison, and this will result in a Boolean value, true or false. So x modulus, if x is divisible by y, then this will be equal to true. X modulus y will be equal to 0. So it is true.
So,
otherwise, it's false. And I'm returning that value itself. So if, can you see that? If this is true, then the first one is divisible by second one. So our answer is true. The first one is divisible by second one. So we want to return a true. Otherwise, we want to return a false. Now,
Professor.
Yeah.
So you didn't add an if.
Yes, without an if, I'm writing it. But let me write the version with the if, then it'll be probably clearer.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so this one is still my return type can be bool. True or false is what I'm going to return. Divisible is the name. And int x, comma, int y are the 2 values I receive. And so if x modulus y is equal to 0, then x is divisible by y. In that case, I want to return true. So return true. Else, return false. That'll be correct. That's a straightforward way of approaching. But if x modulus y is true I'm returning true. If x modulus y equal to, I'm sorry, x modulus y equal to 0 is true, then I'm returning true. Otherwise, I'm returning false. So can you see that x modulus y equal to 0, whatever that value is, that's what I'm returning. If this is true, I'm returning true. If this is false, I'm returning false, right? So why not return this itself? That's what I'm doing on the board. So my version on the board, in the PowerPoint presentation is a sleeker version of it. The one with the if is the straightforward, the one on the board. Both of them are correct. Why not write this return x modulo y equal to 0? Because whatever the value of that expression is, that's what I need to return. If it is true, then the conclusion is true. And if it is false, conclusion is false. But both versions are correct. So you can write it with the if, nothing wrong with that. All right, so we need is even is, let me proceed, and if we have time, we'll come back. It's not important that we do this. So let's see. Another example, write a function that receives a positive integer and returns the count of its devices. It will count how many devices are there for that number, and it'll return the count. Okay, so return type is int, and name is devices, and I receive one number in variable num. And I need to test all the numbers from 2 to half of the number. So I'm going from 2 to half of the number. And if test number divides, then increment the counter. But whether it divides or not, the test number should increase. So that's test number is outside the if. Test plus plus is outside the if. Okay, so this, you have seen this before. This loop is counting all the devices. And when that loop finishes, I'm returning the count. So the task is to count how many devices are there and return that count, and that's what I'm doing. Okay. Okay, so yes, that does finish it. So we can go to the warm-up exercise. Write a function called isEven that will determine whether the number received is even or not. We don't have much time. I'll give you a minute. See if you can write that.
Question.
Yeah.
Do you want us to return like a C out even or a C out odd, or do you want us to return something like a bool?
Bool.
Okay, thank you.
Damien, yes, you do need parentheses. Otherwise, you're only converting the first variable to char. That's not right. That's not going to work right. You want to convert the value of the expression, and that's why I said you need parentheses. All right, we don't have the time, so I'm going to write it for you. Function isEven is going to return Boolean type. So it's going to be bool isEven, and it'll return one number, int n. One number in the variable n. So n has the value, and I need to see if n is even or not. So if you want to use if statement, you can say if n modulus 2 to be even, n modulus 2 should be equal to 0. If it is equal to 0, return true. You can write the word true right there. Else, return false. But as you can see, if you, whatever n modulus 2 is, if it is n modulus 2 equal to 0, if that's true, I'm returning true. If it is false, I'm returning false. So I could have written return n modulus 2 equal to 0. Whatever this value is, I need to return it. I don't need parentheses around it because always the expression will be done first before the return is executed. So this expression will become a true or false, and that's what I'm returning. So